I was 18 years old at the time. My college roommate and I were on the way up north. We were on the road when the accident occurred. We heard about it on the radio.
It happened to be my third or fourth flight that I was actually up at Huntsville on my own. Being a new engineer back in 1986, I was 28 years old, and I had been working for Lockheed Martin for about 3 years.
And it was a Saturday morning. My son had just woken up, and the phone rang, and it was my mom. And she's like, "Did you see what happened?" "No, I haven't even turned on the TV yet."
I didn't have the same feeling that I had later in life when I experienced Challenger, when I was in my engineering career, and then again Columbia when I was actually a NASA employee. I've recently read more details about the Apollo 1 accident, and my take on it, it wasn't just an accident, it was a failure. And the failure wasn't necessarily one of a technical nature. The failure was a lack of paying attention to details, which we should have done. I've since read that Gus Grissom pointed out his concern with the abundance of flammable material within the capsule. In addition to that, their spacesuits were flammable, and they literally melted onto them when the fire occurred. There were lots of signs that people could look at and use and say, "Hey, wait a minute, let's drop back, let's stop a minute and see if there's anything potentially catastrophic here." And they didn't do that. And that's where the failure occurred. Years ago, I read in an engineering magazine that every project is a balance of cost and schedule and function. And that if you ignore just one of these, eventually you're going to fail. And that's exactly what happened here. Apollo 1, I think, made me realize that a catastrophic event like this could occur, and it did in fact occur. We weren't going to stop the space program because of this, and we didn't stop the space program. But this was the first time we encountered loss of life, as far as I know. So in that regard, yeah, it was different. It was a shock.
I clearly remember the Challenger accident. I was working for Lockheed Martin at the time up at Huntsville at Marshall Space Flight Center in the Huntsville Operations Support Center there. And our mission there was to provide engineering backup for the people at the Cape doing the propellant operations, loading, preparing the vehicle, and then following the launch through its completion. Well, I found out about the accident when the data stopped running. So right at about 72 seconds, the data just stopped coming. And everybody started looking around at each other going, "Well, what happened?" My feelings after finding out about the accident, at first was, like everyone else. I mean, you're very sad. It's very unfortunate. You're thinking about the lives of the people who were on Challenger, and then after that, it turned into more curiosity. There was so much data to look at. We were conditioned to look at flight data, both pre-launch and post-launch, and so the immediate feeling was, how soon can we get back into looking at the data to find out what happened? And so we spent a lot of time going and reconstructing those failure modes and the corresponding analysis that supports them, and then develop new ones. And in the process, it taught a whole new generation of engineers, me in particular, about ground operations for a shuttle launch or a large launch vehicle. Taught us about launch commit criteria, why they're there, what goes into them in terms of analysis and uncertainties. And the overarching benefit of it was the new safety culture that was evolved out of Challenger. Because clearly, the idea of being able to speak up when an accident occurs, or voicing your opinions and recognizing that you have an avenue to voice those opinions in a clear management chain was important.
Yes, I remember the Columbia accident very well. It was February 1st, 2003, and it was a Saturday morning. I turned on the TV and just sat in shock and awe and watched the news as they were trying to find pieces and trying to figure out what happened on that day. Employees were offered a chance to go and ride on a bus to Kennedy Space Center to see the the debris, and it was very humbling experience. It was one of the few times that I cried. It made me realize that just because stuff has happened before and it was okay, it's not going to be okay if it happens again. It also made me realize that to take every day as a new day, never take anything for granted, because you don't know if one day everything works and the next day it doesn't. Oh my gosh, this happened, and that to know that the astronauts completed all of their mission and that they were just coming home because they had a job well done, and it was a very sad day, but I just was in disbelief that happened. When I looked at the wreckage, I didn't think that a piece of foam could cause or be the contributing factor for the damage that I saw, with the redundancies that they've built in, with all the checks and the balances and the tests and everything that's performed. I just never thought that something like a piece of foam hitting where it hit on the orbiter would have caused the catastrophe that it caused, and I just couldn't have imagined that something that was so put together and so tested, and then when I looked at it, it was just pieces.